A man unexpectedly acquires a golden antique. He holds it in his hand and gently turns the knob. Suddenly, some sort of legs appear from it and latch into his hand. In pain, Jesus forcefully removes the device, causing his hand to bleed as if it has bitten his palms. As its legs retract into its body, the next day the old man looks much younger. Could it be that this device can reverse aging? Today, I will explain the film Cronos. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. In 1536, an alchemist named Uberto Fulcanelli escaped the Inquisition and created a device that could grant eternal life to its possessor. He landed in Veracruz, Mexico, and spent his lifetime perfecting his creation, which he named Cronos. In this device, the alchemist placed an unknown insect that, in conjunction with the inner clockwork, secreted an unknown substance to its user, granting them immortality. One evening in 1937, more than 400 years after the creation of Cronos, a building collapsed, and rescuers found a man with strange, moonlight-like pale skin. This was Uberto, who had managed to live for so many years, demonstrating that Cronos indeed provided him with immortal life. However, due to a fatal stab wound in his chest that injured his heart in the accident, the alchemist succumbed to death. An investigation into this incident was conducted, and everything found in Uberto's home became classified. The results showed that this alchemist had kept a person captive, collecting their blood in some way. After the investigation, Uberto's mansion and all his properties were auctioned off. However, Cronos was never discovered and was not listed in any inventory of items found at the alchemist's location. Because of this, the immortality device was considered to be non-existent. 59 years later, an old vendor named Jesus Gris is noticing a suspicious person looking and inspecting items in his religious antique shop, causing him to stop playing with his granddaughter Aurora and ask if he can help the person with something. The suspicious person exits the shop without answering, leaving Jesus puzzled. He then inspects the item that the mysterious person has been examining and finds it to be a statue of an archangel. Jesus continues playing with Aurora until cockroaches emerge from the broken eyes of the said statue. Upon seeing these insects, Aurora immediately kills them. Soon after, Jesus is inspecting the small statue and sees a golden device inside. This is the Cronos that Uberto had hidden in one of his small statues, which has ultimately ended up in Jesus' antique shop. Looking outside, Jesus sees the mysterious person on the phone with someone. This person is calling Angel de la Guardia of the De la Guardia Enterprise, reporting to him about the small statue found in Jesus' shop. Upon hearing this news, Angel immediately goes to his terminally ill Uncle Dieter, asking him to sign a new will in exchange for the fresh information he has just received from their informant. Dieter, eager to get the small statue containing Cronos, happily orders his nephew to get it as soon as possible. At first, Angel refuses, saying he's tired of dealing with his uncle's obsession with Cronos. However, he changes his mind after the sick man shows him Uberto's diary. As a result, Angel goes to Jesus' antique shop to buy the small statue for his uncle, unaware that Cronos is no longer in the statue. While Jesus is packing the item, Angel is playing with Aurora, giving her chewing gum, being very friendly around the child. After some time, Jesus, unsure of what the golden device in front of him is, cleans Cronos. As he holds the device and turns its knob, some legs suddenly appear from within and lock onto his hand when it's activated. In pain, Jesus forcibly removes the device, causing his hand to bleed as if it's biting his palm. When its legs retract, he warns his granddaughter to stay away from the device and assures her that he's fine. They immediately return home to find Mercedes, Jesus' wife, teaching her friends to dance. Seeing her husband, she excuses herself from the others to tend to Jesus' wound. She asks what happened, and Jesus lies, telling her that he fell onto shards of glass. That night, Jesus starts feeling strange and dehydrated, so he goes to the kitchen and drinks a pot of water straight. When he sees raw meat in the fridge, Jesus feels a craving for blood, but he denies this craving because he's repulsed by the idea of consuming raw blood. He also feels uneasy with a tremendous itch around his wound. Jesus scratches it with a pair of scissors and even bites it, but nothing he does can stop the itch. It turns out that these are symptoms of Jesus' body longing for Cronos again. He finally gives in to the temptation, allowing the device to consume his blood while he prays. In doing so, Jesus looks very weak. like a drug addict consuming his drug. Meanwhile, Aurora hears the noise outside her room and decides to investigate. Seeing her grandfather using the device on the stairs, she begins to worry about his condition, but Jesus assures her that he's fine. The next day, compared to his nearly miserable state the night before, Jesus feels much better. In addition, he looks younger and feels healthier. His wrinkles have noticeably disappeared and his hair is fuller. Seizing the opportunity, Jesus shaves his beard and surprises his wife with his new look. Looking around, he doesn't see Aurora at the dining table, so he asks his wife about their granddaughter, but she doesn't know where Aurora is either. For this reason, he goes alone to his shop, only to find it a mess, completely looted. Just as he's sitting there dejected, Jesus finds Angel's business card, deliberately left on the table. Seeing this, a thought suddenly pops into his head about why the De La Guardia family would target his shop. He immediately goes to their shop, holding a box, and Angel greets him cheerfully as if he hasn't done anything to offend him. Then, Angel takes Jesus to see Dieter, and the two start talking about Cronos. Dieter knows a lot about the device and warns Jesus about what he's getting into. Dieter shows him Uberto's diary and explains to Jesus that the device he possesses is called Cronos and it can grant eternal life. However, to achieve immortality, certain strict rules must be followed. In Uberto's writings, Jesus sees images of insects which Dieter believes to be a living filter. He thinks that insects must be God's favorite creatures. For example, a mosquito can walk on water like Jesus Christ. Then there are ants and spiders which can come back to life even after being entombed in stone for hundreds of years. Jesus, confused, asks Dieter why he's telling him all about Cronos. It turns out that this man is dying. He wants to live forever and wants to get the device that grants immortality. Suddenly, he grabs the box that Jesus had brought earlier. As Jesus tries to take back the box, Dieter sees the bandage in his hand and quickly realizes that he has used Cronos, but Jesus reasons that it was just an accident. Dieter gets angry and asks him to leave their facility. But before he leaves, Jesus looks back at the De La Guardia couple and cryptically tells Dieter that they will suffer some losses. As Jesus leaves their sight, the patient opens the box only to find a padlock inside. Dieter realizes that Jesus has made a fool of him and mocks him through their facility's PA system, telling Jesus that only he knows the rules of Cronos and he will never tell him. When Jesus returns home, sweating profusely and gasping for air, he goes to use Cronos again. But to his disappointment, it's gone, and he immediately realizes that Aurora must have taken it after seeing what happened last night. Going up to the rooftop, Jesus looks for it in his granddaughter's toy box, but finds nothing. Finally, he sees Aurora hiding behind a blanket. Sitting where they usually have tea, Jesus plays with his granddaughter and convinces her to return the device to him. He assures Aurora that as long as they are together, nothing bad will happen to him. Hearing this, Aurora finally comes out of hiding and gives the teddy bear to Jesus where she has hidden Cronos. That night, the Griss family heads to their community's New Year's gathering, but Jesus uses Cronos before going. As he experiences the effects of using the device, he notices that the prick he received on his leg heals instantly. At the party, he displays greater libido as he passionately kisses Mercedes while dancing. Even while eating, Jesus doesn't let go of his wife, holding her tightly as if they were teenagers again. However, their joy is interrupted when he sees a man with a nosebleed. Jesus feels the thirst for blood again. He excuses himself and follows the man to the restroom. There, he waits until the man cleans himself and then tries to lick the blood off the sink. At this point, a person walks out of a stall, causing Jesus to pretend like nothing happened. To his dismay, the man cleans up the blood on the sink before leaving. He's lucky, though, as there's a drop of blood on the floor, which he immediately goes to lick. Suddenly, Angel enters the comfort room and kicks his head, causing him to lose consciousness. Dragging Jesus out of the gathering, Angel takes him somewhere else and beats him up badly. Angel is already fed up with the way his uncle treats him and his obsession with Cronos, so he vents his frustrations on Jesus. In doing so, Angel asks his uncle why he is so obsessed with Cronos. Jesus truthfully answers him about his understanding of the device. Hearing this, Angel laughs, finding it ridiculous. In turn, Jesus pleads for Angel to let him go, but the man continues to hit him. Afterwards, Angel puts him in a car and pushes it off a cliff. Jesus lies down helplessly, feeling as if he is dying there alone, helpless. He is very scared and prays to God to let him live. At their home soon, Aurora is awakened by the sound of police sirens. The next day, Jesus' body is sent to the funeral home where Tito takes care of him. Tito is passionate about his work. He tries his best to apply makeup to Jesus' wounds, making him look like he's sleeping. But when his employer tells him that Jesus is going to be cremated, Tito loses interest in the body and tells his employer to let him know earlier next time so he won't waste his makeup. Meanwhile, in their shop, Dieter calls Angel to meet in his room. There, the patient's Cain lashes out at Angel, greeting him for what he did to Jesus. In return, Angel lies, saying he didn't do anything to him. It's just that his car skidded and plunged off the cliff. Hearing this, Dieter wants to know if something has pierced Jesus' heart, but Angel isn't sure about this. Frustrated, the sick old man talks trash to Angel, saying he is useless. Dieter gives his nephew one last chance, ordering Angel to make sure Jesus is dead and to take Cronos away from him. Following his uncle's orders, Angel goes to vigil for Jesus and jokingly pinches his nose to make sure he is dead. A few days later, Jesus is brought back to the funeral home for cremation. While preparing the incinerator, Tito notices it can't burn properly, so he goes to the basement to fix it for a while. But when he comes back, Tito doesn't notice that Jesus is no longer in his coffin. Not long after, Angel shows up again and asks to see Jesus' body one last time. When Tito tells him that the coffin is already burning in the incinerator, Angel smiles, believing Jesus has truly gone forever. However, Jesus is still alive, but not in good condition. Walking through the cold night, he looks for a blanket to use in a dumpster. Inside, Jesus finds a newspaper and sees his own name in the obituaries. Because of this, he calls home trying to talk to Mercedes. But as soon as Jesus says her name, she hangs up, thinking someone is prank calling her on the other line. At this point, people discover that Aurora has heard this brief phone call, as all their phone lines are connected. When Jesus returns home, his granddaughter greets him and gives him a clean towel. Then they go to the roof, where Aurora takes out all her toys from a box so Jesus can use them to rest. He also uses Cronos again, hoping to regain his strength and heal his wounds. However, sunlight seeping through the holes in the roof hits Jesus, burning his skin as if he were a vampire. He acts quickly, crawling into the box, resting as Aurora closes the box. That night, Jesus wakes up and finds his granddaughter waiting for him, drawing on the wall. Seeing this, he gets the idea to write a letter to his wife. He tries many times, but seems unable to find the right words to talk to Mercedes. In the end, Jesus partially conceals the truth, telling Mercedes that he managed to survive after the accident but doesn't explain why. However, he promises that he will complete the work he has started. What he hopes is that if everything is completed, he successfully survives. No matter what he looks like, she can still accept him. After writing the letter, Jesus leaves the letter with Aurora, entrusting her to give it to her grandmother. Then he goes to Dieter's store in De La Guardia to confront him and learn the whole truth about Cronos. But to his surprise, Aurora has followed him all the way from their home. Jesus reproaches her for following him quietly, but she indicates to him that she has brought Cronos. Seeing this, Jesus has no choice but to keep his granddaughter by his side to ensure her safety. They take advantage of Aurora's small stature to enter Dieter's room through the food window and open it from inside to let Jesus in. In there, Jesus begins to quietly look for Umberto's diary, while Aurora peers around. Unnoticed, Dieter is awakened from his sleep and sees what Jesus and Aurora are doing. When Aurora hands over the box she found to her grandfather, Jesus sees Umberto's diary inside. However, as he scans the diary, he notices the content he's looking for is missing. Suddenly, Dieter exclaims behind them that Cronos has worked on Jesus, making him immortal. But Jesus shouldn't bother looking for the missing pages, because he has already consumed them. Hearing this, Jesus orders him to explain what's happening to him, starting with why his skin is rotting away. But Dieter doesn't give a specific answer. Instead, he peels off his skin, revealing white skin beneath his rotten old skin. Then, he secretly presses a button to call Angel up to his room. After giving Jesus a mirror to look at himself, Dieter tells him that he has been reborn, and in exchange for eternal life, Jesus will now rely on human blood to continue living. If he destroys Cronos, it would result in his death. Dieter convinces Jesus not to do this, saying they could share immortality together. Jesus feels insulted, yells at Dieter, saying he doesn't want to live forever but to live peacefully. Dieter smiles and says there is a way for him to die without destroying the device. However, before he tells Jesus what it is, he asks him to hand over Cronos first. As Jesus hands the device to Dieter, he is suddenly stabbed in the chest, almost hitting his heart, which shocks him. Dieter, wanting to make sure he's undoubtedly dead, nails him to the floor and the two struggle. Unnoticed by Dieter, Aurora picks up his cane and swings it at his head, knocking him to the ground. As Jesus gets up, he urges Aurora that they should run away immediately. But seeing Dieter bleed excessively, he can't help but take a sip. Shortly after, they hear the sound of the elevator rising, indicating that Angel has arrived. Because of this, the two quickly hide. Surprisingly, upon seeing his uncle bleeding on the floor, Angel is not worried, but jubilant instead. He breaks Dieter's neck, ending his life, and says that he has been in pain for a long time because of him. Seeing him distracted, Jesus takes the opportunity to approach Angel, hitting him with Dieter's cane. Then, he and Aurora escape to the roof, with Angel following them. Having no choice, Jesus takes Aurora to the store's sign where there's an emergency staircase leading to the ground. When Angel catches up with them, he faces him and lets Aurora escape. At this moment, Angel starts beating Jesus, gaining the upper hand. But Jesus stands up and tells Angel that his loss in this battle will be greater than his. Then he suddenly charges at him, causing both of them to fall from the roof. Seeing this scene, Aurora acts quickly, goes to her grandfather's side and uses the Cronos on him. Jesus recovers and wakes up, beginning to peel off his skin. However, looking at Aurora, he feels his craving for blood is getting stronger. Seeing his granddaughter look at him in fear, Jesus realizes what he has become and destroys the device. Anticipating that he will slowly die, Jesus repeats his name over and over, not wanting to die as a monster. However, contrary to what Dieter said earlier, Jesus doesn't die. Even so, he decides to go home. He lies in bed waiting for the sunlight to shine on him. As the movie ends, Jesus waits for his fate without complaint or regret, because he has Aurora and Mercedes by his side.